channel?
No. Man, they said there's a policy against using face paint going inside. They had to double check to see if it was good.
Hello, Internet. My name is Jerome Boateng, and welcome back to another edition of Driven Conversations. I am hyped for this one right here. We have an excellent guest, but we're also doing something a bit unique. Shout out to Unique, by the way. We're up at the Treehouse, and my guests today, they are a makeup artist. They do social work. They do a lot of different things for the community, with the community, and they are gonna do face paint on me for the very first time. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome AK is getting my face paint done because later on today, I'm going to a Hawks game. Brooklyn Nets, but I've always wanted to get on that big Jumbotron. And so I had the thought, to get on the Jumbotron, I may need to actually spruce myself up. I may need to come there and show everybody just how big of a Hawks fan I am. I wanted to take you a bit out of your comfort zone, because you do makeup, but have you done anything like sports-centric face paint?
Not at all. Not at all. And I love that you took me out my comfort zone, because that's where I like to be.
Oh, yeah.
That's a magic happen.
Oh, yeah, I like it. Well, I'm definitely ready for this. You can go ahead and get started on the face paint whenever you can. I will let you know briefly just about my context of how I even became a Hawks fan, right?
Talk to me.
So I used to be a New York Knicks fan. My family, my dad and my brother, they were Knicks fans. And growing up, once I got into sports, I really just fell in love with the teams that they watched. So that's how I became a New York Jets fan. And I'm still a Jets fan to this day. However, the New York Knicks, around, I'll say 2014, they got really bad. And at some point, I started to question. I was just like, why do I root for this team? When did I become a fan of this team? So then I decided, let's go ahead and let's switch it up. I saw the Hawks, and I was semi-interested in them because they had made the playoffs the year before, and they had given the 1 seed a run for their money. So around December of 2014, I was like, hey, I'll start a Hawks fan page on Instagram, and I'll start rooting for the Hawks. And so the day after I started that fan page, they rail off 19 wins in a row. Still to this day, their longest win streak in franchise history. And that really validated my decision to decide to, hey, let's choose my own fandom. Let's not let someone else determine what team I'm going to root for.
Yeah.
So in that same vein, do you remember a moment where you realized or where you started to question the person that people in your life were telling you were supposed to be versus who you actually are?
That is a really good question. I think maybe I'll take it back to the first time that I dropped out of grad school. It was 2020 in the midst of the global pandemic, if you recall, and I was supposed to be finishing my clinical year of my MSW program that I am currently in and almost done with now. Life happens as it's supposed to for a reason, but back then in 2020, it was the expectation for me to just keep continuing on with school. I had never not been in school since I was a kid, K through 12, went straight on to 4 years college and then went straight to grad school. So taking a break and pausing and knowing that that wasn't the time for me, that I needed to focus on my mental health, that I needed to focus on me, that I needed to figure out if I even really wanted to be there. All of that was much more important than me pushing through and just saying that I'm still in school. So I think that's the first notable time that I took my life into my own hands in that way.
So how did it feel when you eventually did decide to take that step out of school Because I'm sure that you had people in your life who were very excited to see that you were in school. That's definitely something that we're taught from a young age. Yeah, get good grades, go to college, get the degree, get the job. So for you to kind of step out like that, was there some kind of moral conflict within yourself?
I felt like shit. Can I cuss?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I felt like shit. I did not enjoy being a dropout. It was the first time that I ever took a break from school. And it really made me feel like I was questioning my worth. I was questioning my worth at that time in my life because a lot of my self-worth was embedded in my intelligence, and not just my intelligence, but my ability to push through, I guess. My ability to ignore my body and my needs in that way. And so for the first time in my life, I was choosing myself in a major way, but I was also choosing to relinquish a really big part of my identity. So, yeah, to answer your question, did not feel great in the moment.
All right, so, AK, my question for you is, if any part of my face gets itchy, what's your advice there? Just kind of like just tough that thing out?
Tough that thing out. That's my advice for you. No.
Okay.
If your face does get itchy, there's a way to kind of twitch it, wiggle it a little bit, and that could help. I also go for a napkin. Camera's supposed to be looking at it, but kind of lightly tapping it. Let me know where it is, and we can tickle the scratch in that way. Other than that, suffer. Yeah, that's all I got.
Well, sometimes you do just have to go through hard things. And when you had to leave school, I'm sure that was, you just told me, it was definitely a really hard thing to try to find what your identity really was outside of just academics.
Yeah.
What was I guess, the hardest part about accepting or finding that new identity for yourself?
Letting that identity be one that is grounded in exploration and wonder, but not necessarily self-destructive chaos. I am somebody that is sensory seeking. I like loud music. I like fast cars. I like intensity. That is something that I have also experienced as dangerous in my life. And during that time in my life, I think the major life lesson was how to balance my penchant for thrill with safety and, I guess, commitment to life. Like, do you want to stay alive, girl? Or you just because really I was just living a life that it was like I didn't care whether or not I lived or died. And while at times it was fun, I was living my best life in ways. At other times, it never filled the void that I was trying to fill. So I think in a roundabout way, I may or may not have answered your question.
What would you say is the biggest difference between you 5 to 6 years ago versus the version of you now?
The self-control, the discipline. I've made nice with the idea of discipline. Yeah, 6 years ago, discipline to me was a bully. Like, discipline was something that I wanted no parts of. Discipline was trying to stifle me and keep me from having a good time, and I don't have time for all that, because whatever. Now my relationship with discipline is one of self-love. I know that in order to actualize the future that I see now, I have to lock in, as the kids say. The me 6 years ago was a lot more timid and didn't really feel comfortable expressing themselves in the way that I do now. When I was a kid, you couldn't get me to shut the fuck up. And there was a time in my life that there were multiple times in my life in the semi-recent past, in the last like 5-6 years, that all I was shut up. I lived inside of my own head, and I was afraid to exist and to be a part of the world because I was afraid to be doing something new. I was afraid to be in spaces I hadn't been before. Things of that nature. And now I am surrendering. That word used to make me jump. The idea of surrender.
Mm-hmm.
But now I like it.
So what do you think has been the biggest benefit for you gaining that newfound discipline over the past 5 years?
Goal actualization. Because I'm really good at setting a goal, right?
Mhm.
My Saturn is in Aries, if you know anything about the planets and shit. You know that is a major planet that is going through every, what is it, 29, 27, something like that.
28,
Yeah.
because I'm 28 right now, and people have told me that this is my Saturn year, Saturn return.
Correct, me as well. We must have the same, which is in Aries.
97.
Yeah, gang shit. So something about, I don't know if you relate to this, but I'm really good at starting things, really good at ideas, really good at talking my talk, but the follow through do not always be there. Something, it's not interesting anymore. Now it's boring. Now it's tedious, and now it gets left to the wayside. And that has been my history with things that I do, like grad school, for example. Honestly, it was something that I had started and didn't finish for a very long time. But with how things are set up now, and my relationship with discipline and patience and all of that good stuff, I am graduating in just a few months.
But I wanted to ask you about, going back to grad school now. So what do you feel, doing school now, and how have you, how are you maneuvering now versus when you were first starting out and you felt a bit overwhelmed by it all?
The difference now is that I am willing to not try to do it all on my own. I am comfortable with asking for help. Comfortable with I'm comfortable with knowing when I don't know it all. With trying in a new way, with giving myself the grace of a break when I need it. Mental health days apply to grad school too. For me at least. I don't know if everybody else be taking, but when I can't, and I won't, and then I don't. I surely won't.
What role does improving your mental health and your physical health as well, what role does that play in you being present for people within your life? Because you said that you lean on community a lot, but how does improving your overall health help you be able to be leaned on a bit whenever necessary?
Paying attention to what I put in my body has really impacted how I move on a day-to-day basis. Like when I cut meat out, and I just had some wings the other day. I did. It's not a
We love some good chicken wings.
I do love some good wings. But for the most part, when I'm able to eat more plant-based, more live foods versus dead foods, I feel it in my body. I feel myself able to be really what you mentioned, of just more present, more alert. I feel better in my body, which then allows me to be present for other people.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier about how prior in your life that you lacked the bit of that follow through. Have there been instances and moments where you can remember where you did follow through on plans, and how did it feel whenever you were able to accomplish those goals?
Something that I did last year was I became a certified peer specialist, And what that means is basically that I'm in the position of recovery as it relates to my mental illness. And that I'm in a position now to help support other people that are in positions similar to ones that I've been in. It was something that I said, years and years and years ago that I was going to do and just never did. And I did it last, I think it was March. I put in my application. April, I sat through the class. In May, I took my exam. And I passed it on the first go. And honestly, it felt, the things that were on the exam were easy for me because it's really mostly just about your lived experience and about knowing how to support people at the various stages that they might find themselves in or walking towards recovery. So that was something that I had put off for quite some time, and it was really nice to finally see that to fruition.
Yeah, did it improve the confidence that you have in yourself to be able to, follow through on the goals that you have and, do the things that you can do within yourself?
It did. I actually think the timing was perfect because that August, so last year, that's when I would have went back to grad school. And I think it was a beautiful precursor to me, first of all, having to get used to studying again and focusing on this is school time. You have to kind of put everything else to the side for the time being and focus on this. That was the first time I had to do it in a couple years, so that helped. And yeah, it like you said, is a confidence boost of when you see you set intentions and then see them to fruition. It reminds you that okay, I can do this, and it's a little positive reinforcement to yourself.
Yeah, so what do you think internal confidence feels like or looks like when external validation isn't guaranteed?
Ask me that again.
Yeah, so so you said within yourself, right, you were able to accomplish going back to getting you said a
certified peer specialist, yes.
Certified peer specialist and become a certified peer specialist?
Yes.
And that really helped you know that you were able to follow through on those plans. And also it helped assist you toward going back to grad school and getting back in that mode. So I'm sure when you were doing these things, was it something, I'm sure you weren't really seeking that external validation, correct?
No, I can't say that I was. I don't really care what other people's expectations are for me at this point in my life. Unless it's my loved ones' expectations of how they want me to move in our relationship with one another. But yeah, I am doing what I'm doing because I have a very clear trajectory and how I want to use my talents in the world. So no, it's definitely coming from inside.
All right, how's it looking so far?
So far, so good. So far, so good. I'm liking what I'm doing. I'm seeing the flames come through because, that's kind of what the Hawks colors got going on.
Okay, word. Yeah, I can't wait to see it all come to fruition. How would you describe just your experience in terms of, finding out and figuring out yourself and being able to express your true self fully?
Well, I guess I'll start by defining myself, if you will. I am non-binary. I would describe myself as transmasculine, and I am queer. It's the best way to describe my sexuality. Because really, I like who I like. I always joke and say that I wish I was a lesbian, because men. But the truth is that I am attracted to whoever I'm attracted to, and also don't know if this was exactly part of the question, but I feel like it's relevant. Polyamorous, all parts of how I identify. And you asked me a question in there, and
I just, wanted to ask more about just your journey into, finding that version of yourself. Because I know for most families and most people, they may not have the type of like nuclear family system that's 100%, I guess either accepting or just the people that are around you that are going to be able to, give you that full support early on. Was it a lot of you having to really just support yourself in that regard, or did you really have that structure within your early life?
A mixed bag, right? So, my blood relatives, which is what I refer to as my family of origin,
Mm-hmm.
not particularly supportive of all that gay shit, as I would like to say. As most family units, there's definitely more than just me. But I come from a family of origin that is very religious and, like I said, not into that gay shit. So while I would say that they never outright rejected me in a way because, I'm me and they wouldn't do that and whatever, but was there support? No. It was more like I have come to find out who I am by way of my own self-discovery. It wasn't something that I had particular support in.
Is that what you mean by, I guess, lean on community?
Yes. Because community to me are, I guess I would define it as people that you find on a similar walk of life to you.
Mm-hmm.
It may be people who share similar experiences to you. Maybe people you meet in certain environments while you're chasing certain goals or pursuing certain passions. That's what I would consider community. And when your family of origin is not super supportive, you gotta find people somewhere. We're social creatures. So
But do you feel you found those people?
I believe that I have. That's why we're here in the Little Tree House.
So this is one of the places. So really, is it like the poetry community? That's one of the places?
Yes, definitely one of them.
How has, I guess, your understanding of yourself as you've gone throughout your life helped you understand the way that society functions?
Well, funny you ask that. That ties in perfectly with the whole non-binary thing because they call it AFAB or assigned female at birth. I was, named a girl as a child and supposed to grow up into a woman, and that came with certain expectations that I couldn't really vibe with. For one, I don't want kids. I don't.
No babies?
No babies. This is a baby-free zone, a very hazardous zone to children, actually. Very hazardous uterus inside. Not welcoming kids. Not interested. That was one thing. I know that there's in some, not all cultures, but I would say part of mine, there was an expectation. I think my birthday, where she said something about being coy.
Mm-hmm.
Supposed to be cute and quiet, and if you know anything about me, there's nothing cute and quiet. But cute, yes, I would say cute. But quiet, not so much. And just a expectation of subservience to men that I could never relate to. So yeah, that's what I was taught, and that is kind of what walked me, funny enough, toward realizing what my gender identity really was.
So how do you navigate it when there are people either in your life or just people you come into contact with who treat your identity or your ideology as if it's up for debate?
Those people aren't in my life now, are they?
There it is. I think I may have asked this already just now, but I guess how did learning yourself deeply, change or really open your eyes to how the wider system treats people and how the wider system views you as well?
Desirability comes to mind when you ask about how other people treat me and how I understand myself. As I found out when I moved down to Atlanta, what they consider red.
When did you move to Atlanta?
2019, so it's been a good couple. Oh,
It's 7 years, yep.
Whoo, child. Yeah, I've been here a minute. It's something I learned. Moving down here is I'm considered red, but I always knew I was considered lighter skinned, and I learned by living, especially things in middle and high school stick out, but definitely college, where colorism was made much more aware to me as someone who's on the benefiting side. Yes, that's how I want to say that. Who benefits from colorism. Took me longer than I'm sure others to notice what it was, how it functions, how people are kinder to me because they find me attractive. And I mean, that's not just the color, but that would be, I would say, the featureism of it all as well. Because you don't necessarily have to be attractive just because you're light, but if someone finds you attractive because you're light skinned, it earns you a lot of social mobility in a way that I have watched change as I enter this journey, this transition. I'm on T, testosterone, T, now, and I am. It's just not a particular journey of like wanting to be a man. Just wishing to masculinize parts of my features or whatever. But even in just the way that I present myself, sometimes it's hard with the makeup because when I have on the makeup, most people just see some pretty girl. But depending on if I'm wearing makeup and definitely in how I interact with people, don't always fully benefit from that privilege in ways when I'm more aggressive to people or.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of things like featureism and colorism specifically. I guess when did you realize that society was not all right? Because I don't think that stuff should be of our concern. I think we're all human, and we should all just be trying to uplift ourselves and be as good as humans as we can be, no matter what the skin color is. But that's not how our society is set up. So when did you realize that it wasn't exactly set up that way?
High school. I'm going to say high school. I want to cite Trayvon Martin. I want to say that was a huge part of it. I remember there was a lot of motion toward organizing at my high school personally when that happened. That bug didn't quite hit me when I was in high school in terms of being mobilized to move, to join anything of that nature. But I did have a lot of emotions. I had a lot of feelings about, there was something that happened in high school where girls were getting exposed for sending nudes to their high school counterparts, and it was something that I found so abhorrent that I had to get off of Twitter for some years. It was pissing me off. You're sharing child porn. It upset me when I realized that girls were not able to express their sexuality in the same way that boys were, and that they would be punished for doing so. When gay marriage got legalized back in 2015 when I graduated high school, and I had a relative, one of my blood relatives, I don't know why this became the point of discussion, but of course when you talk about gay marriage, the straights like to talk about pedophilia.
Oh boy.
And so that came up, and I said something about how there are pedophiles everywhere. There's heterosexual pedophiles. And she said, well, it's normal for men to be attracted to girls. And I said, okay, well, now I have to cuss you out because you're fucking nuts. And some little things, those were my early awakenings about, y'all not quite all right in the head.
That is. How did it make you feel?
It was, honestly, I want to, oddly enough, use the word affirming, because growing up, I feel like I thought people were stupid. Yeah, I thought people were stupid growing up.
That's one way to put it.
That's one way to put it. That's the best way I could put it. And as I've grown older, I've learned that people are indeed stupid. And maybe that's not a nice word. It's not very social workery with me. And that's just too damn bad because some people just don't really use their brain.
So do you think that's more of a function of what they've been taught, or do you think it's more of them choosing to stay ignorant or choosing to stay stupid, as you would put it?
Both. Ignorance the nicer word, right?
Mm.
It's very clinical language. Yes, I do think that people are intentionally deprived of knowledge sometimes. I think where you're from, where you stay, who you hang around, all that good stuff, that can dictate what you know. And not everyone, I will say I went away to college. I went to college in New York. So, you know, I learned a lot. I was exposed to a lot. And I don't know that everyone necessarily has all of those same experiences. So, I don't want to necessarily say that everyone has the privilege to learn more, but I think if you get out in the world and you encounter something, someone, circumstance that you don't understand, you can choose to get mad at it and attack it and be ignorant, or you can choose to be curious, ask questions, understand something new. And I think that's when you venture into the territory that you're just being willfully ignorant, when you're presented with the opportunity to learn and you choose not to.
And so, you know, you mentioned that when Trayvon Martin passed, when he was murdered, that's when you started to, I guess, you know, kind of like the light bulb switched on in a way. Would you say in college, is that where you started to figure out, even though you didn't finish school, is that where you started to figure out more so how you would want to go about helping people?
Well, I did finish my bachelor's.
Oh.
Yes, I'm finishing my master's now.
Okay.
So there's that. And I would say college is where I started to see the imbalance. And when I say the imbalance, I mean, for example, Trayvon Martin, tragic story, tragic life lost for racism, and that's it, and that's all. And white saviorism, further beyond that. Trayvon Martin is a young black man who received national attention that black women and black girls don't get nearly the same amount of. And even as I'm standing in front of you, I know Ayanna Stanley is a name that comes to mind. I can't even rattle off list of names of the black women and girls who have lost their life to police violence the same way I can tell you about the men. And that was something that immediately disturbed me when I went away to college, and that was something that became more prevalent to me.
Yeah, so, you know, once you went to school, I just wanted to know, like, how did, you know, when did I guess, like, you really start to figure out how you wanted to go about helping people? Because you obviously went through a lot of things in your life. So how did not only what you're seeing on a societal level, but also what you've had to deal with during that time help you figure out what you wanted to do in terms of helping people.
Okay. So bring it back to college. I was an undergrad at an alma mater that I do not rep. If you want to know that bad, find out. But where I went to college, there was multiple, but one particularly notable uprising that happened where a student, she was called. It's so funny when we're talking about stuff like this. Be like, call them the N-word when I say nigga all the time. She was called nigga with the hard R though by somebody. I don't recall if it was another student. It could have been campus staff somewhere. I don't recall, but something of that nature. Students were upset. Long story short, it ended in somewhere between 8 and 12 hours of us being in an auditorium and sharing different experiences about how we've encountered racism or sexism or homophobia or xenophobia or some type of bullshit at the hands of the university that I went to. Hours and hours and hundreds of students came up and talked and shared what their experiences were. That was a canon event for me. It really made me think about how I wanted to exist in the world. Like who when I graduate here, what am I really finna be doing? Because this happened my junior year, and then senior year comes up next, and it's like, oh shit, I'm about to graduate. I got to figure out what's next. I was an RA, resident assistant, back in the undergrad of things. My residence director, my supervisor at the time, when I was hemming and hawing trying to figure out what the hell I'm finna do when I graduate, she asked me if I ever considered social work. And I had not. I had never really thought about it. I guess I'd heard of it, but my association with social work was like people that take away their kids from their family. And I was like, well, I don't want to be a part of that. But the more that I learned about social work, the more I began to see it as somewhere where I would say psychology meets sociology meets social justice. And yeah, that was a way for me to transmute the anger and the frustration I saw at unfair systemic policies and unanswered abuses of power and violence that occurred on college campuses, and how to take the knowledge, the experiences that I had in college and actually do something with it now. Like, I'm out in the real world. This is, I'm sure, just, and I was right, just happening on a smaller stage, things that happen in the rest of the world. But how do we transmute all of those strong feelings into change and action? That is what brought me to social work.
Okay, so you actually got into social work, you said after graduating.
It was something that my residence director, this was my senior year. So senior year, I applied to some master's programs. Actually, I think I only applied to the one that I got into, which was the one at Clark. And yeah, that's where I came on my journey to social work. And yeah.
So you had to be, I think that was 22 at the time, or 21.
Yeah, I think I started 22. Yes, I started the program at 22.
Okay, so if you finished that master's program at that time, do you think you would be a better social worker than if you finished it now, or when you finish it now?
That is a great question, and absolutely not I tell people all the time that I'm finishing exactly when I'm supposed to. I don't think, and this is no shade to the 22-year-olds that's in my class or across the world that's getting their MSWs, but there's something to be said about life experience. And even though I had actually at that point in my life gone through quite a bit, there was still so much more to go through. Like from, what are we, 21? This is 26 now. In the 5 years between when I would have graduated versus now, I've been through so much, and so much has changed. The world has changed. I've grown up. And I don't know. I just couldn't have seen myself as effective in the roles that I'm walking into now. Honestly, I didn't even know I wanted to do half the stuff that I'm like policy. I said it a little bit when I was in my foundation year, but I didn't realize like that's really what I wanted to do. I thought that I just wanted to work with individuals, which I do, but I'm actually more interested in groups than individuals. So a lot of just needing to live life. And
because you got to go through the experiences that you're going to be helping people with, right?
Yes, you do.
Yeah. So you said you're going to be working primarily like with group settings. So go into detail, like, because I've heard people say when they say they work in social work, I think quite like you, not necessarily knowing exactly like what that entails. So in terms of what you're planning and what your goals are once you do get that master's degree, what exact type of work do you plan on doing there?
That is a good question that I wish I had a super perfect ready-made answer to, but I will still answer the question to the best of my ability. So social work comes in different levels. They refer to it as micro, meso, and macro level social work. The micro is more of the hands-on. This is you working with individuals and their families, things of that nature. Meso would be working more with groups. So doing group therapy, working with the organizations that are between the people that you might work with and higher levels of government. And at the macro level, that is where you're going to see people in policy. That is what I am the most interested in. And but also still connecting with community, because I think sometimes people at the macro level can be a little far removed from like the people that we actually say that we're supposed to be supporting. So making sure that bridge between the people and the legislation stays intact.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, how do you prevent yourself from losing sight of the individual if you do work on a macro level? Because when you're working with macro, different groups of people, everybody wants different things or needs different things. So, how do you keep the individual in mind while coming up with things that are going to help like an entire group of people?
You talk to the individuals. I think that is the best answer I have for you. Actually talk to people. If you have a target demographic that you want to work with, making sure that it's not just papers you're reading and that's the only way that you're theorizing about people. You got to get out there and speak to people. Numbers are good, quantitative research, but qualitative, which is more so story-based, that also has its merit. Actually, being able to have people dictate their own experiences, and that being able to help inform the policy that we see. I think that's how you stay connected.
So I think you've talked in the past on your YouTube channel about the importance of self-diagnosing, and just in terms of staying in tune and you studying up on how other professionals would, I guess, qualify or describe other people in terms of what their disabilities may be or what they may be going through now. How important do you think it is to, just, I guess, not rely so heavily on the system to know about yourself or to be able to know the type of help that you need?
I would say, first of all, when it comes to diagnosis, I think what is the most important, like diagnosis is a tool that I think can be overused in a way that has us over identifying with the story that's being told about whatever diagnosis we have is, right? I look at diagnosis as a way to better understand, first of all, put a name to what you're experiencing. And sometimes what feels the worst is feeling like something crazy is happening to me, or something I don't understand is happening to me, and it doesn't feel normal, like there's something wrong with me. I think in some ways the power of diagnosis lies in its ability to let you know that you're not alone, and that what you're experiencing isn't this crazy one-off experience. It's may not be normal, but it has happened before, right?
Yeah.
That's one way of thinking about it. But I guess I would just say that for me, when I spoke about self-diagnosis, I feel like thinking back, it wasn't really fair the way that I'm like, oh yeah, just go pick a book and self-diagnose, because like this is what I study. What I'm getting my degree in is me knowing how to properly diagnose people. So it's not like I'm just picking up the DSM and saying that I can open it and figure it out. But that's the thing. I encourage people to teach themselves, honestly. I don't feel so high and mighty about my profession that I feel like nobody can teach themselves things and inquire. And it's not to say like necessarily go diagnose yourself and then start taking a bunch of pills on what you think you have, but it means to maybe go through a checklist. Maybe it means to take a quiz, an assessment, something you find online, and then bring it to your doctor and go, hey, I think I might have X, Y, and Z. Can you help evaluate me for it?
And I think it's important to know, yourself and what type of disabilities you may have. One thing that I will say is there may be a bit of risk in doing that, because people who are diagnosed with any disabilities, they may often get othered by society, or they may have their chances or opportunities kind of cut off because someone will read a paper, see what it says, and be like, we don't really want to deal with something like that, and then just kind of mark them off without even getting the chance to really experience someone.
That's true.
So is there do you think people should consider that risk before doing that? Because I think that's often the reason why people don't go get their kids checked into a doctor to be like, hey, does my son have ADHD? Things of that nature. Is that something that people should ignore?
Definitely understand your point there. I am very mindful and critical of the system in that way. I personally, I'm saying this as someone who is a therapist themselves, that I feel very touchy about getting diagnosed with certain things, and having that be a part of your paperwork, because labels can be stigmatizing, and labels can be harmful. I also consider what it would be like for you to equip yourself with the tools to combat whatever it is that, for example, right, let's do something relatively simple. Take depression, and if you look up something that depression that helps combat depression is sunlight and physical activity. You could move more. You could it sounds corny because it's more than just going on a walk.
Go outside, get some sunlight, you know?
Yes, and also, I have my own ideas about what really combats depression. I think it's more than just single-handedly doing in your body what can kind of alter those chemicals. I think it is a communal experience. I think it's something that you need people to best combat depression. You need other people. You can't just crawl out of a hole and to what? You know, if you crawl out of the dark and there's no one there, then you very well may crawl back into the dark. So not to say that if you don't have people that you should be depressed, but I know oftentimes when I'm in depressive states that I find myself wanting to sink further and further away from people, where the reality is that I think the more we lean into one another, the more we can ease those symptoms.
Now, what do you think that community can offer that capitalism does not offer?
That is a fantastic question. Community offers presence. That is the first answer that comes to mind. Community offers presence. You can buy all of the things that you want to buy, all of the latest gadgets and the tech, and upgrade to the latest version of ChatGPT, if you will. But there is nothing that compares to sharing a moment with someone, with people, laughing until your stomach hurts, and shared jokes, learning new things, being reminded, being remembered, being thought of, being considered. Those are not things that come with capitalism. It doesn't matter now. Let me be clear. We do need money to do things. Because I am not, right now, I'm in an era of my life where I'm very much so like, look, child, and I love you so much, but where the bag at? With like, because I can't take care of myself, and I can't take care of you if I don't take care of me. And unfortunately, in this society, we do need the dollar bills to take care of certain things. However, beyond all of that, capitalism cannot buy you the presence of good people. Good people that help you feel seen, that you can share your art with, that you can create alongside. That is something that capitalism cannot buy, to answer your question.
Yeah, so I think a more humane system would be something where the dollar bill isn't the main goal, right? Like where we would barter or we would trade skills and just, like you said, that type of system would make us a lot more or less focused on just the monetary end of it all and make us a lot more focused on, like you say, the community aspect of it all. I think that being humans and, you know, having a system that encourages us to not look for our differences, but encourages us to look for and seek in our similarities and how we can assist one another. I think that's definitely something that's worth striving for. And so how did your awareness of the power and the systems that you live in now help dictate your autonomy?
Well, one, I recall I've said to another friend on another podcast once upon a time, shout out to Dime, shout out to Becoming Great, mentioning how as a server, one of my first jobs, how I looked at our check when we was closing out, and I noticed that if I made about, I don't know, 1,000, 12,000, 1,500, not 12,000, 1,200. 1,500, something like that for the company. I'm walking away with like 6% of that, and I'm fighting for my little tiny bit of tips. When in reality, I'm making this company so much more money than I'm able to take.
So 6%. So wait, because 10% of 1,500 is 150, and you was making less than that.
If it was a slow day, I could have went home with 60. I could have went home with 25. That was when it was real bad. The point was that no matter what, I was still making money for the company, number one. And number two, I was expected to tip out as well. Which is crazy to me, because I'm like, I ain't make no money. How I'm supposed to tip y'all out if I ain't make no money?
Wait, tip out? What's tip out?
Tipping out is when you have to pay either the bus boys or the bartenders. Yeah.
Your own tips?
My own tips, because they're a part of the team too. As if somebody else, not namely the company, could have just paid them out their pockets. Yeah. That is one of those. That's one of the younger memories that come up when I think about why I decided that I have to do things my own way. That I wasn't interested in being a cog in the machine because, I believe my time is valuable, and I do not believe it is a good use of my time to spend days upon weeks upon months upon years making what is that? I don't know the math, but like 95% more for a company that I'm going to be able to take home. Not into that. So, brain fart. But I think that I answered your question.
No, you definitely did, because a big part of you doing what you want with your time is you're not only just out in the community serving as a social worker, uplifting people through just helping them out in the community and guiding them through their mental health and their emotional health as well. You're also helping uplift their spirits. I have seen you plenty of times as a model, namely for Tiffany's Playground. Yeah, so you've been allowing yourself to be painted on by painters to be a canvas of others. Yeah, and so how would you describe like that type of modeling? Like, how much do you enjoy that? Like, how do you compare that to other experiences you've had at other jobs you've worked at?
I consider it, thank you for asking me that, because it is liberating. That is the word that I wanted to bring up during this interview. There's a word to describe how I feel about my journey and how I live my life now is liberation. At Tiffany's Playground, the theme is erotic poetry, and if you have not read Uses of the Erotic by Audre Lorde, I highly recommend you do. It's one of my favorites. It is written, but it's also a speech that she gives about being in touch with the erotic, which she juxtaposes with the pornographic to mean that the erotic is sensation with all of the feeling. It is when you are participating in an act with others and fully feeling every moment that you're in. You're doing something that brings you joy. You're doing things that you actually care about. You're not only moving and shaking in the name of someone else, but you are moving based on an internal guide of what really lights you up inside. Poetry lights me up inside. Sex lights me up inside. I love using my body and engaging my senses and using my words That's what I love about being a part of such a project, such a movement like Tiffany's Playground, and getting to use my sensuality as a part of what makes me me.
And so when did you get curious about using that sensuality? Because in my knowledge, not only do you look for Tiffany's Playground, but you've also done it for the Midnight Garden as well, correct?
I do be one of the fairy ambassadors in the Midnight Garden. Yeah, I don't remember your question, but
Where did the curiosity come from?
ooh, that curiosity has always been there. It's always been there. I've always been curious about my body and other people's bodies and how to feel in my body as someone who is air dominant. I beat my head quite a bit, and it's nice to not be in my head, and to just allow myself to be present in my skin, to be touched, to be held, to be loved. I think that's what comes to mind. These spaces, I think of love when I think of being in these spaces. And you asked me a question, I feel like I
You definitely answered where the curiosity came from.
Yes.
So to you, in those spaces, what does agency mean to you in those kind of spaces? And also, how do you set boundaries in spaces that are that personal?
Agency means that you do what you want to do, only what you want to do, when you want to do it. That other people do not get a say in deciding why you do what you do. That it is an autonomous decision that you make. How to protect your agency. Know what you will and won't do. I would say that's where you start. Having strict boundaries and just knowing where you stand to start out with.
So when it comes to boundaries, do you think they're more so like a strict set of rules, or are they more so like ideals that you live by?
They can be both. It depends on the individual. It can be strict sets of rules, but boundaries are not universal. Boundaries are something that have to be defined, one, within yourself, so your own personal boundaries for like what time you want to go to bed, what kind of food you want to eat, stuff like that. Those are example of boundaries to me. But boundaries are also boundaries you can create between you and an individual. Like, there's something that I'm sure you talk to your friends about that you wouldn't particularly talk to your mom about. There's different boundaries for the different relationships that are.
Some people do argue that, sex work can only exist in, I guess, like in a space of exploitation.
Yes.
Would that be something that you combat against, that idea of it only being something that can be exploitative, or you just being objectified? Because you describe it as liberating.
I do. It can be objectifying. I think, to quote Audre Lorde, use without the consent of the used is abuse. So when you no longer have the consent of the individual at the center of the production, then yes, that is where it falls into line of like abuse. That's where exploitation can occur. I think. It depends who is at the forefront of the question. I may find sex, sexuality, and all of those things liberating. I don't necessarily think that liberation needs to come across a 13-year-old, right? The same way that I express that sexual liberation at 20 going on 29 is not necessarily the way I would advise a preteen to do it. So, setting, helping make sure people are in touch with their internal yes, that everyone has space to understand what an enthusiastic yes looks like for them. That is how to help ensure this is all based in liberatory practices rather than exploitation. I'm just heavy on that. Nobody telling me what to do. Like I'm doing what I'm doing because I want to do it. And I encourage other people to do the same.
Okay. So after doing the external and internal work within yourself, how does it help you to prepare to step out in the world?
Well, first I will push back on the idea of having done the internal and external work, as in done as in it's over and I've already did what needs to be done.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process that I will be learning and undoing and redoing and redefining and transmuting and perfecting for the rest of my life. I will always be a work in progress, and that's something that excites me about living. But how to, I guess, take the work that I've done and apply it to present life. Like I think I said it before, being present is a huge part of where I reside now. It's still, like I said, a work in progress because I still find myself being pulled in 1,000 different directions and having trouble staying focused on one thing at a time. But I will say that I remind myself more often now. It's more often that I'm able to be like, okay, girl, you on your phone trying to do this, that, and the third, but you here in class right now. That you pay $3,204 for each of them. So how about we lock in? How about we pay attention? You're here at dinner with a friend, and sometimes it takes other people bringing it to my attention. I had somebody tell me a homie was out, and I have my laptop with me as I often do, and they were like, you know, it really bothers me that I am always talking to you with a screen between us. And I was like, I really never thought of that before. That's my bad. I gotta stop trying to multitask and like be present in this moment with you. And I did. So being receptive, staying open, staying in conversation with the people around you, that's what comes to mind when I think about application into day-to-day life, life lessons.
Yeah, no, it's definitely important to prepare yourself to be present in the world whenever you step out. What does makeup represent to you besides just improving the aesthetic look of someone or yourself?
Makeup represents freedom, creativity, fun, joy, anarchy. Because in makeup there are no rules. You get to do what you want. You can create what you want. You can make your face do anything you like, except for blackface. That's racist. Don't do that. But in general, makeup allows you to. For me, it's drawn on my face really, because I am an artist, a visual artist who, over the years, has made it less and less of a priority. But one thing about makeup is it allows me to draw every single day. I've done all types of fun designs and all sorts of things, and not necessarily always looking beautiful, but always looking interesting. That's the one thing you can say about me. Even if you don't find my makeup beautiful, you can say it's interesting. It makes you look in. Like, what's going on over there? Like that's what I love about makeup, the individuality. Just making my face into my canvas.
So how important is it to maintain that creativity or continue to be creative as you have to still perform in a capitalistic society that prioritizes production?
It's my life's blood. I have to remain creative. I stumbled upon I don't know what to call it. I don't know exactly what you call what they were doing, but it was a bunch of lesbians and they were in together in a cafe and it was cute. And I didn't mean to go there. I did not mean to stumble upon that. But My door seemed open. I lost my train of thought. I write a love letter to myself once a month, actually. Fun fact, if you don't do that, you should. It's a really nice practice. It's a big hype myself up kind of space. Like, it's not there for tough love or this is what you need to get done. It's really there for like, you're doing great. And maybe that's a place where I discuss what I need to get done, but it's in the frame of like loving myself. Anyway, back to the Lesbians Cafe. I believe one of the prompts was something around like, what do you need to do more of for yourself or something like that. And for me, I gotta do more poetry because I am a makeup artist. That this is a gig for me. Social work is a gig for me. It's it's work. It's like, what do I do that's really just play and really is just for the fun of it all and is not to chase capital and is not to stay up in the rat race. And I think poetry is that. I don't want to get paid to do poetry. I mean, low, don't let me say that.
Not
you could pay me to do anything, all right? But it's not something that I'm chasing a career as a paid poet. I'll put it that way. It's something that I can really just do for self-expression and for as an open diary, honestly, to get my thoughts out. And yeah, I want to do that. That's how I fight back of doing things that don't need to be capitalized on. Believing that if you have all of your needs met, that's all you need. Gratitude. Gratitude. My God, I should have said that first.
Absolutely.
That's we don't realize how many opportunities that we have to be creative in our lives. There's little ways, being able to take a detour and take a different route home that we didn't usually do, or get something different for dinner, try a new meal. There's so many little ways you can exercise creativity in your day-to-day life when you're really grateful and you see what all you have at your disposal and what all you can really do. Gratitude. That's it, mic drop.
Well, as we round it out, I started off with a question that was centered around the Hawks. So I'll end it with this, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to be going to a Hawks game.
You are.
And, it's a sports team. And the arena is paid for by us, the taxpayers of Georgia.
Is it?
Yeah, that's how sports teams work. Yeah, there's rarely any teams that will actually front the bill of the arena. So even though it is a place that brings a lot of joy for people, it is an inherently flawed place because it's something that we do have to pay for out of our own pockets. And, obviously that tax money goes towards many different things that the U.S. is trying to do. And a lot of those things may not be the best things, but it's still a place where many people find joy. It's still a place where many people come to, be together and commune for the love of sports. So my question to you is, as I go into this arena that's inherently flawed in how it's set up for our society, how important is it to find joy in a society that is inherently flawed?
Joy is all we have. I think joy is all we have. First of all, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism or consumerism. So we all choose, I do be side-eyeing people that have their Starbucks, but unfortunately I still get the homophobic nuggets from Chick-fil-A. It's really the fries. It's been the fries lately. So it's like we all have our things and our ways that we participate in these systems that are doing bullshit like what you just described, how our taxpayer dollars are being used to fund this stadium that I've never personally been to, but I'm sure that I'm paying for. You've chosen your battle. You've chosen that you're going to go participate in this. I presume you knew that prior to getting the tickets, or you know now, and you're still going. So you've chosen your battle. That's what you're going to do. You can be mindful. You can even make a statement if you feel so called on social media to share about reminding people where their tax dollars are going or however you want to say that if you feel so called. I used to do that with Spotify before I actually decided I just need to get off the app. I would routinely talk shit about it. So, in whatever way you see fit. But yeah, being mindful, important, but also, child, we on a spinning rock and we gotta find our joy where we can get it. I would say be willing to let go of things if there was some type of movement about it being harmful enough, there's some type of child labor involved or something like that. I would say,
it would definitely take a lot of the joy away.
Yeah, feel principled enough to be able to honestly, I could stop eating. I could find waffle fries somewhere else because what they be putting our money into is really abhorrent. But that I am in the process of doing my best to practicing more of what I preach in terms of where I spend my money at. But little by little, bit by bit.
Okay. Well, I see the paint in the corners of my eyes.
Are you ready to look?
Oh yeah, I'm ready for the reveal.
Okay. I'm just diddly darling and adding